Welcome guys, I'm Alec, aka the Bespoke Bloke, a professional tiler with over 20 years experience, and I can assure you my body reminds me daily. I'm coming to the end now of this massive new build house, and you may have seen various videos on it. I'll link them in the description if you haven't. You may find some good tips and tricks in there. So now I've just got the downstairs sauna and wet room to go, and today I'm going to show you how I build a custom wet room shower tray. Let's jump into it. Okay, so a common problem with some wet rooms is you can't get a wet room shower tray big enough for the size of the room, or if you can, it's really expensive and not the type you want. Using Backerboard trays makes it a pretty straightforward solution to this common problem, and I'm going to show you how I do it. So joining me in this wet room, I have a 1.2 by 1.2 wet room tray dry laid down in the middle. I'm just getting it positioned where I want it so the plumber can come and connect the waste. You'll see I have some strips of Backerboard already around it, so let's show you what the plan is. So in this wet room there is no glass, so the whole floor needs to fall into the drain. It's not possible to get a whole one this size, so I'm going to make my own. This is ground floor, so there was a big hole left for the waste when this new house was just a concrete slab, so I've picked a tray that allows me to have the waste in the centre of the room and works with where it needs to be. The plan: get the tray set central of the room so the waste lines up, then fill in the perimeter with the same thickness Backerboard as the tray, which is 20mm. Then I will follow the pre-made falls in the tray out onto the perimeter like you can see in this picture. Now to make this work I need to tilt the perimeter towards the tray to give it a good fall. So this means I have to cut through it across them lines. If that sounds confusing, let's jump into it and all will become clear. So the plumber has come and connected the waste, so the first thing I need to do is remove the tray and fill in the hole to make it nice and solid around the pipe. For the perimeter pieces, you can see here I've just stuck two 10mm Backerboards together to get the 20mm tray thickness, as there wasn't any 20mm Backerboard available at this time. This will do the job nicely as Backerboard bonds very well. I just mark around the tray here and take a measurement, so when I stick it down I can put it back in the exact same place lined up with the waste. And while I'm there I just take a measurement for the piece of board by the door I need to cut, which I'll show you in a bit. So I just want to fill this hole up so the tray is solid. I'll use a combination of expanding foam around the pipe and some self-leveling for the bigger void. So I built a little Backerboard dam to block the waste pipe, which in the end ultimately leaked, which I'll show you in a bit, but luckily drama was avoided. Before self-leveling though, I got two boards of 10mm and cut the perimeter piece by the door. They will then be stuck together with rapid set tile adhesive. You can see here this is where I need the board to finish, level with the outside subfloor. By the time it has adhesive on it, it should be pretty good and have a fall back into the main tray area. In goes the self-leveling, and you know it's bad when you start seeing it going back down. And I was trying my best to avoid the trap with my little dam so it's free and movable. But I blocked the leak up with some board. Then when it started to go off I just scraped it out around the pipe, so not ideal but disaster avoided. I cut everything back so it is nice and flush. Then I tried to try again before sticking it, just in case the foam or leveling had altered the trap height. It's always good to be safe, especially after a near miss like that. The trap was all good and screwed in fine. I just filled in some of the rough bits with some tile adhesive. Now the last thing to do before sticking is to dry lay it all down and get these envelopes marked and cut. Wet trays are level around the perimeter with pre-made falls that run from the edge of the drain to the edge of the tray. So I'm just going to continue the falls onto my added Backerboard, and then it will look something like this. Then I just need to cut through these lines that will allow me to tilt the perimeter without making a step in the corners, so the whole thing basically becomes a bit of a bowl. So using my saw I just go around and cut through all four of them. You can see on the level here the fall and where the perimeter boards need to come up to. I'll achieve this with a different thickness of adhesive. I just take a mark from the subfloor to the wall so I can draw a line for where I need my outer boards to sit. Once I get that one right I can just level all the rest off of that, so I'm level all around the edge of the room. For sticking I will be using a rapid set flexible adhesive. First up I spread the back of the tray with a 6mm trowel, keeping the ribs in the same direction. Then using my 10mm trowel I spread onto the floor in the tray area. It's now just a case of placing the tray and lining it up with the trap. Once I'm happy, I just start putting some pressure on it and start getting a connection to the floor. I can then just screw and connect it to the waste, which as you can see is pretty easy with these trays. Next I put some weight on it to get it all nicely stuck and making sure it's level all around the perimeter. I add a bag of adhesive to hold it down, make some slight adjustments so it's square with my outer floor, and that is the tray set. Now for the perimeter pieces, as I want to create a slope, I use 10mm on the floor and 10mm on the back of the board. This will allow me to tilt it and still have a good bond. Once it's it's all spread and ready to go, I just silicone the sides for extra belt and braces. If you were just putting a tray down, I'd always recommend a bonding sealant against the wall for extra security, as well as your tile adhesive on the floor. Then I repeat the process following 4 rules, making sure I have a good bond to the floor, it's flush with the edge of the wet tray, checking I have a good fall, and making sure the perimeter is level. This is what I'll follow for all the external pieces. And you can see here the fall going back into the tray, and I'll be trying to keep this the whole way around the room. So now it's just a case of repeating this process for all the pieces around the tray, sticking to my 4 rules, and the tray will start coming together. A good tip for Backerboard here is if you need to whack it like I do here to get it level, then use a block of wood and a hammer so you don't damage the board. Then once I'm happy and it's level, I fill over all the joints with tile adhesive for more protection and bond. This will also have a waterproof membrane over it later once it's all dry. You can see here the corner is nice and flush, and that's the whole reason for cutting through it. Then I just carry on fitting the other pieces, siliconing them and filling over the joints as I go with adhesive. Also, once it's all done, you would silicone the whole way around the perimeter before waterproofing. Final few boards to fix at the front, a bit of a stand and wiggle action there to get that board flush, that seemed to work nicely. I give it all a good clean so it's nice and smooth, and there we go, that came out pretty good. You can see I finished nice and flush on my outside floor. Drawing that level line at the start helped make sure of that. And you can see here when I put some levels over it, it falls nicely into the tray the whole way around the room, which is the objective we wanted from the start. There's nothing kicking up, it's all nice and smooth, and that's because we cut through the corners to create an envelope effect. It's the next day now, the floor's dry and nice and solid, so I'm siliconing the edges, ready to tank the floor and walls for waterproofing. And you can catch all that in the next video. Take care, guys.